Hello, and what we're going to do today is we're going to talk about the third section in Unit 2 for Pre-AP Biology. We're going to talk about macromolecules. These are going to make up or going to use the six CHNOPS molecules for organic materials, as well as needing the water characteristics to get it to turn into solutions that bodies can use. But first thing we're going to do is talk about macromolecules. Molecules, you guys all know, is actually made of two or more atoms put together. Macro just means that they are big. They come in two different forms. First, we start with a monomer, which is the smallest molecule. These are going to make up the basic unit for the four organic molecules that make up all life. An example of that would be like one building block. And then we have what are called polymers. Polymers means many, and we can equate that out to taking many of these blocks and making a whole object of it. And that's what we're going to do with macromolecules. We're going to put them together to make polymers, and we're going to rip them apart to make monomers. Monomer, amino acid for protein. We take an amino acid and we take another amino acid and we do a process where we actually take water away. It's called dehydration synthesis, and we actually bond them together to make a polymer, which is, this case, it's called a dipeptide. It's a peptide bond that puts them together, so it's two peptides put together, and we have a water as an outcome. Here's a picture of a protein. I put this on here a few years ago, and I don't remember what protein it is, but when we take these amino acids, and you can see there are lots of amino acids to make a protein, and if you take a look at the shape of that, important in terms, and this is where pH and temperature, which can change the shape of this, it can actually cause all kinds of problems. You can see small amino acids out here put together, and I don't know how many amino acids are in there, but it's a boatload. Okay, how do you take monomers and put them together? You do that through a process called dehydration. You remove water to synthesize, put it together. And here is, they're hydroxyl ions, but they're basically what happens is we're going to take these hydroxyls, we're going to take a hydrogen, and an oxygen, we're going to pull it out for H2O, and we're going to link the two together. Dehydration synthesis removes water to bond monomers together. And I want to show you a short little depiction of this. So dehydration synthesis, there's the monomer, come together, the water gets taken out, and now we have a dimer and a polymer. Okay. So you can see that the water molecule is removed, OH group, and then the remaining oxygen joins together to actually form a bridge, which is going to hook up the two monomers. Here's an example of glucose and galactose, which are two sugars. OSE is sugar, and we put them together to actually make sucrose, which is a disaccharide, by taking that water out of dehydration synthesis, putting them together. Two monomers put together, pull out water, and we get a polymer. Then how are monomers taken apart? Sometimes we want to take large molecules and we want to actually make them into smaller ones so we can utilize it. So we can take sucrose and we actually put in water, and this process is called hydrolysis, water cutting, or cutting with water. It uses water to break apart a polymer into monomer. So we take the polymer, we actually add water into it, which splits them up into two monomers to be utilized by the body. So we have dehydration synthesis putting them together, and we have hydrolysis pulling them apart. What are the four organic molecules? Well, the first one are carbohydrates. Carbohydrates like bread, sugars, sugars in there, pastas. Basically, they're sugars and starches, and you can see that they're very good. And normally, we use these things for energy sources. We have short-term energy like in sugars, and we have longer-term energy like in pastas and starches. So the monomer is a simple sugar. The simple sugar is called glucose. It's C6H12O6. Oses, again, are sugar or carbohydrates. polymer, when we put them together, plants will actually take them and put them into complex sugars, which we can call starch. Even more complex sugars, which we call cellulose, which they use for like their bones for support in the cell wall. And animals can do the same thing with glycogen, which we'll talk about when we start talking about how people break down these sugars, or animals break down these sugars and form energy. Starch, you can see, actually has the orientation where this group is actually all at the top, and they're bonded together with O's. Cellulose is where these things are actually mirror images of each other, and this is why it's harder for people to break it down. Starch is relatively easy. Sugar is the easiest one, a single molecule, but when we bond them together, orientation together, it makes it a little harder. We bond them together with orientation at mirror images, right angles to each other, makes it harder. And then glycogen, it's almost impossible. You can see it actually has the equivalent of starch. Then it runs off on different directions, which makes it very hard for your body to actually figure out where to go in there and cut this up. So it makes glycogen a relatively hard material, cellulose, relatively hard material, but a little easier, and starch, a hard material, but fairly easy, and sugar, it's already broken up. So, okay, those are carbohydrates. Structure, the way we use those for is structure if you're a plant, or we use them as energy storage short term if you're a plant or an animal. Proteins, things you find in meat, fish, eggs, beans. Proteins, monomers, amino acids again, call them for peptide bonding, amino acid. You need 20 of these things, which you can get every time you eat an animal product. If you start eating plant products, you can get some of those, but maybe not all of those. And vegans especially have to be really careful because you need those 20 to make you. Polymer, we call them polypeptide chains, but they'll eventually end up being proteins. Function of these is for structures. They make your muscles, they make your hair, they make your skin, they make your bones, they make ligaments, they make everything that is you that you can see or anybody can see from you. And they also make a very special type of proteins called enzymes. Enzymes actually go into chemical reactions and make them happen at lower temperature, so they can actually happen inside your body, or they happen at much faster speeds, sometimes even slower speeds, so that your body can do it the way it wants it to be done. We'll talk more about enzymes at the end. Lipids or fats, monomer for those are glycerol, which is a large molecule, and 2 to 3 what are called fatty acid tails. We can put them together to make unsaturated fat or saturated fat. An unsaturated fat is usually a liquid at room temperature, so like oils, vegetable oils, olive oil. And then saturated fats usually are solid at room temperature, like butter, lard, Crisco, things like that. So we have oil, and we've got butter, lard, and Crisco. What do we use these for? We use them for long-term energy storage. Fats are what you're supposed to build up during the summer so that you can actually utilize it in the winter when food stores are low or it's harder to find it. Some animals can use it as insulation. Blubber, real good example of that for whales and seals and sea lions and some fish.
Welcome to our favorite place. I'm Sat, short for saturated, the bad fat you've known for years.
And I'm Trans, bad fat
I'm
you've
going to go ahead and
seen
show
in
you
the news
two
lately.
really quick
We're the
videos. Bad Fats Brothers, which I think is kind of
We
cute.
live for those moments when you eat any of the many foods we're in.
I hope you're hungry, because I have some selections you are gonna L-O-V-E love.
There's so much of me in here, I don't know where to begin.
No, skip the menu. I have just what you want. Fried chicken.
I can top that. A juicy cheeseburger.
With crispy fries.
Oh, and don't forget the butter.
For the fluffy biscuits.
And hey, nothing like a nice thick steak and a loaded potato.
And my tempting donuts and flaky pastries.
Seems unkind to call us bad fats when we're so enjoyable.
So attractive.
Oh, maybe we do clog up your arteries.
And raise your bad cholesterol. Okay, we're bad for you. But We're so good at it! Oh, what a nice slice of cherry pie, huh? Be sure to eat all the crust.
The Bad Fats Brothers. Don't let them break your heart. Visit badfatsbrothers.com.
These are from the American Heart Association.
Thinking of cooking? Think of your heart. I'm Mon, short for mono unsaturated
And then we go to the Better
fat.
Fat Sisters, and bad fats,
We're the Better
saturated
Fat
fats, and
Sisters.
trans
We
fats.
help lower
You
your risk
really
of
want
heart
to try to cut
disease.
those out,
The foods we're in,
especially
like
at the age
fish,
you guys are,
nuts, and
because it makes
vegetables.
harder, and
That's
it's
right,
harder and
sis.
harder as you
Trust
get
that those
older and
foods are
older.
Bad Fats Brothers,
Ask anybody
saturated in
like me.
trans are in. They'll break your
Better
heart.
Fat
Remember,
Sisters.
we're better, but we're fats too. We all have 9 calories per gram, so go easy on the portions and spend more time with us.
The Better Fat Sisters. Be kinder to your heart.
Okay. So again, what the Better Fat Sisters said is that all fats are same caloric value, just it all depends on whether it stays inside your body, like the saturated fats, which can make plaque inside your arteries, or if it actually washes right through because your body can keep it as a liquid. Okay, so there's the glycerin. These are the fatty acid tails that go, and you can see there's water in there, and what we're going to do is we're going to take that water out through a process called hydrolysis, and we're going to take those 3 waters and we're going to make a fat. Okay, so there's still the glycerin, and there still are the fatty tails, and you can say this one is actually a saturated, here's an unsaturated, and there's a polyunsaturated fat. Nucleic acids make DNA and RNA. They actually have a monomer, which can be called deoxyribo sugar, a phosphate, and a base, okay, which is the nucleic acid. It can also be a ribo or ribose sugar, not a deoxyribose sugar. And the polymer for them are, that's a nucleotide. And it carries directions for building proteins. The DNA codes for RNA and the RNA codes for proteins. And we'll talk a lot more about that when we start talking about building critters. DNA and RNA are the polymers, and they again do carry direction for building the proteins. Okay, I put this in here because what you're supposed to do is hold your head straight in front of it and then cross your eyes, and what you can do is you can build a 3D image. I actually see it right here. I know it's not supposed to be in the middle, or it's supposed to be in the middle, but I see it. Actually, it kind of depends on where I touch this mouse, doesn't it? But I see it in the middle of the picture. Same thing with this one. This is a 3D, but if you cross your eyes, you can see it. I see this one right here. That's kind of cool how the other one was over here on the right side, and this one's on the left side. And then the last thing for this particular section is talking about the organic building blocks. We can take hydrocarbons, which is considered an organic material, but not really alive. It's not really alive until we put oxygen in it, and we can make carbohydrates and lipids with those 3. If we throw in nitrogen, we can make amino acids and some of the proteins. We throw in sulfur, and we can actually start making more amino acids and more proteins, and we throw in phosphorus and we can make nucleic acids like RNA and DNA. And we do need some other atoms to make some of to come in, iron, copper, magnesium, and some others to make some of the proteins, because again, proteins are very, very, very important. And this is the CHNOPS, not quite in the order for making these materials, but it is the CHNOPS. And that is stop. Okay, thank you.